find themselves and build a plan to get back in harmony with their families in under 6 weeks. I just want to talk to you today about the old history acts. You ever got the history acts before, where you're in a discussion and somebody gets triggered and that other person brings up some old history that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, and the next thing you know, you're just spiraling into a conversation that is not related to what you're trying to communicate at all. I don't know if you can hear the dog in the background here, but pretty much the two of you in that discussion, once the history acts comes out, you sound like this dog barking back here. And essentially what happens is you're in a discussion, you're on point, you're trying to communicate effectively, responsibly. One person's talking about a concern they have and the other person is listening, but then they get triggered. And what happens next is that they bring up something that is completely old, completely irrelevant, but somehow in their mind offsets the whole I'm feeling attacked right now, even if you're not attacking me. So let's give you an example. I'd like to talk about the way I feel when this certain situation happens. And these are my feelings. And what I'm noticing is this. And I'm wondering if we can do that. The other person right away goes, all I hear is, you think I'm treating you like a jerk. And there was this time 6 years ago when you treated me like a jerk. And then that's it. You're going down a slippery slope of, well, misery. I shouldn't really be smirking about it, because I got to tell you, it can really get dark. You can start going off on a battle back and forth about who's worse and who does less chores and who's not the better parent, and it can get really disastrous if you're not really careful about it. So I just wanted to talk about 3 things you can do when old history gets brought up to you, and we'll actually talk a little bit about what you can do if you realize you've done it as well and you see that it's not working. So if you're talking about something and old history gets brought up and it's not related and there isn't a discussion point about it, the very first thing you want to do is check yourself. You want to check yourself internally to see how you feel about that topic that was brought up. What is it, what wells up in you about that old history? Because likely chances are the other person, or you if you're the one doing it, is trying to take the partner off track and put them in a place of vulnerability, because it essentially brings you into a balance about where you're feeling. So I'm feeling like the feedback I'm getting is attacking me. I bring out the history, and then that will essentially, I call it the history acts, because it chops down the other person to the level I'm feeling. That's not fair. That's not responsible, whether it's being done to me or I'm the person doing it. You have to take ownership. So if you're the one doing it and you recognize it, you have to realize it. And likely if you're the person doing it and you are aware of it, you should announce it, stop everything, apologize, try to reel it back, say I wanted to give you space to what you're communicating, and go back on track. If you're on the other end of the swinging axe, what you want to do is take a step back, and there's a couple different things you can do. First, you want to check yourself, make sure you're not being reactive. If you need space, then you might want to announce that, and it might sound something like this. I've noticed you've brought up a topic that is obviously meaningful to you. It is not the thing that I would like to talk about, and which I brought up. I've asked for space for that. I was wondering if we can get back on track, and that's one thing you can say. If that doesn't work, then you can ask for some space. I would like to, stop what's going on, stop this discussion, and I'm going to walk away. I'm going to come back in a bit and we'll hopefully talk more about what I wanted to do. So that's the number one thing, is an awareness and an announcement around it, so that you can make sure you feel protected, or you are protecting yourself from what's happening. The second thing you want to do is you want to just get the conversation back on track, and I just mentioned this a little bit, and you want to get back on track by saying, hey, I hear something's going on for you. That wasn't the discussion we're having, and I'd like to go back to what we were discussing. If you'd like to make time for that topic, we can do that later. I think we all know that bringing up stuff from a long time ago is not really valuable. Sometimes it's good to get off your chest, but if it's from a really long time ago, I think we need to work through it on our own and actually look to the now and the future. Maybe there's related situations, but then we want to resolve the issue that's causing that reoccurrence versus talking about an old occurrence in the past. I'm bringing this up because in our dark times, my partner and I were really good at this. We really brought these old history axes out, and we could just go back and forth. This is the third thing. You want to make sure that it doesn't go into second, third, or fourth levels, because that's when the spiral happens. So don't rebuttal. Don't say, well, I did that, but you did this. That's the worst thing you want to do. And that's absolutely the third thing you want to make sure that happens. The other thing you want to do in that moment is not hold on to it. Don't have a reaction to the fact that it happened. If it's able to get back on track, you just move on and just keep talking about the topic that you started with. And that's going to be really important for you, and to make sure that you can resolve, actually I would say, so you can dissolve all of the emotion around bringing out the hystriacs. Also, finally, you might want to reassure yourself or your partner that the conversation isn't about an attack. I can hear that you're feeling like you need to bring up something in rebuttal, but really this topic is just about me expressing myself. If I'm not speaking responsibly, please let me know, because I'm not here to attack you. I just need to get this off my chest. And that's a really important move too. Is this easy to do? Well, sometimes it's not, because I'll be honest, axes are sharp, and a swinging axe is not all that easy to deal with, and it does take some practice. So one of those three steps: one, you're gonna be aware and announce and excuse it in a compassionate, empathetic way. Number two, you're going to keep space, or make space, or design space that you're allowed to do. Whatever works in that situation. Even if you have to walk away, don't just walk away. You don't want to cut off emotion. You don't want to create a disconnect. Stay connected in all of these steps by acknowledging what's happening compassionately, softly, in a non-reactive voice, in a non-disconnected voice. And third, you're going to want to acknowledge that the other person is having some emotions. You don't want to tell them what those emotions are, because you don't know until they express it. But once you've announced that you'd like to get back on track, move on without any kind of hang-ups or any kind of resentment. Just kind of move on and just have like a nice flow. Get back to expressing what you're doing. When you're expressing what it was that you wanted to originally get to, you're going to need to check in with each piece of information. If the axe came out, that meant that person may not have been paying attention for the whole time, because they might have been in their head or in a dark place somewhere, kind of reacting internally. Maybe they were trying their best not to continue reacting, and that takes a lot of effort. And we want to have compassion for the other person. That is how you build connection. That is how you're going to be able to continue to resolve these scenarios from happening less and less. So if the hystriax comes out, I know that we all have our own things that we hang on to, right? So, maybe someone's more likely to bring it out and say it out loud and bring it up a day, a week, a month, a year later. But most of us have things that we think about internally, and those always cause reactions, even if you don't come out swinging with it. So that's kind of my advice today. I want to know if you've ever dealt with the hystriax. It can be a dangerous swing. So men, if that's something that's helpful for you, make a comment in the below. I want you to just walk tall and walk kind. Okay, I love you, and